Alex Murdaugh broke down crying as a witness testified about his wife and son's final moments.
I believe it would have hurt him. I believe he would have been in pain. And I believe he would have been somewhat affected. And the reason I believe that is because I've got the 90-degree blood drops moving really, really slow.
All right, Alicia and Seema, thank you so much. So breaking first here at 4 o'clock, sources say that Alex Murdaugh could be facing charges in the death of his wife and son.
That's right. Several sources tell our sister station that the former South Carolina attorney is expected to be indicted for their murders this week. Paul and Maggie Murdaugh were found shot and killed on the family's hunting property in Colton County last summer. Now, Alex Murdaugh found them. SLED has been investigating the case since that date, but offered very few details to what may have happened. Since their deaths, a series of revelations have come about Alex Murdaugh. He's now facing a total of 83 charges for several crimes, including fraud, money laundering, and taking settlement money meant for a family of his housekeeper who died at his home. He was charged with setting up a botched suicide attempt when he tried to pay a man to kill him. Right now, he's still in jail on a $7 million bond. Several sources say a grand jury will meet later this week to potentially indict him in the murders of his son and wife.
Former South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh is accused of defrauding clients in a failed life insurance scheme. Is now disbarred. South Carolina Supreme Court justices invalidated his previously suspended license. They say the dozens of grand jury indictments and Murdaugh's own admissions to theft prove he is no longer fit to practice law.
But now Murdaugh could be facing murder charges.
Sources say he may be indicted this week for the shooting deaths of his wife and youngest son.
Queen City News reporter Savannah Rudisell is digging into the details of the double murder case. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Julian and Wyatt. Murdaugh's lawyer, Jim Griffin, says that officials intend to criminally link his client to the family's deaths. Investigators will present their findings to a grand jury this week. Now, it's been just over a year since the deaths of 22-year-old Paul and 52-year-old Margaret Murdaugh. Investigators say they were shot on the family's property in Colton County. Now, state law enforcement officials say they can't release any of their findings right now. Murdaugh has denied any involvement in the death of his family members. He said last September in statements through his lawyers, the deaths of his wife and youngest son intensified his addictions to opioids and has been terribly difficult on him. But the investigation into the double murder has brought to light a series of revelations about Murdaugh's conduct. Court documents show he's accused of stealing from his former law firm, stealing millions out of unpaid settlement funds, and trying to defraud his life insurance carrier by soliciting his own murder. Murdaugh currently faces a total of 83 charges. He's in Richland County Jail on a $7 million bond. Back to you.
Well, now at 5:30, a prominent South Carolina lawyer turned murder suspect.
Disbarred and disgraced attorney Alex Murdaugh is now charged in connection to the murders of his own wife and son. The Colleton County grand jury indicted Murdaugh today and is the latest twist in a series of crimes the former attorney is tied to. His wife Maggie and son Paul were found dead last June on the family's property near Islandton. Indictments show Alex shot them using a shotgun and rifle, and his web of crime began to unravel when police say Alex orchestrated his own botched hit job in a scheme to secure a $10 million life insurance policy for his surviving son Buster. Now, Murdaugh is also accused of several financial crimes and is connected to 3 other death investigations, including the mysterious death of his family's housekeeper.
All right, joining us here in the studio to help break down the twists and turns of this murder and the murder mysteries is Chief Legal Correspondent Seema Iyer. Seema, I mean, this has gone from just horrific to shocking to straight up disgust in this case. But
yes.
Looking at these charges, is this first-degree murder we're talking about here?
Okay, so there are 4 indictments, which I think was strange because usually it'd be 1 indictment with 4 charges. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about the murder. So it's titled murder, but the definition really tells me that this is murder in the first degree. So technically there are 2 counts of murder, one for the wife, one for the son. And then there are 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. So there's one for Paul and one for Maggie. Interesting, because Brian mentioned this in the opening, a shotgun for Paul, a rifle for Maggie. So now we're getting more clues as to what was happening that evening, and that is 2 weapons. This makes it just, I don't know, it's another plot twist, okay? So now let's move forward. I want to talk about the type of murder that he was charged with. It is called a murder, malice aforethought. So the definition in the code is murder is the killing of any person with malice aforethought, express or implied. Okay, what is malice aforethought? In South Carolina, they say that malice is a predetermination to commit an unlawful act without just cause or provocation, and malice is a willful or intentional doing of a wrongful act. Aforethought refers to the time when evil intent is formulated. So why are all these definitions so important is because this is saying there was this premeditation, there was planning, there was evil happening, and we have to look forward to any kind of potential defenses or trial, because Murdaugh may be saying, of course he's saying he's innocent now, but he may be saying that it was heat of passion, that there was some argument. That's why so many weapons were involved.
But you're talking here for a father to kill his son, to kill his wife. That's what the charges are. But you're talking about evil and forethought and malice here. The charges here. Could he get the death penalty, and how much time is he kind of facing here?
So in South Carolina, they don't always seek the death penalty, and they usually do when there's aggravating circumstances. So when you think aggravating, think makes things worse, mitigating make things better, right? So aggravating could be that this guy has 80 other charges. He's got 1 million cases going on, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, okay? So more than likely, I don't think they're going to seek the death penalty. But altogether, I believe right now with all the cases, and again, these are concurrent, which means on top of each other. Consecutive means back to back to back to back. He is looking at more than 734 years in prison.
Well, just to point out, too, as you said, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But with these charges, what I thought was actually kind of surprising is his attorney, one of his attorneys, Dick Harpootlian, representing him, was emphatically denying
this. That's the job, Alicia. Sorry, I'm jumping in.
Right.
That is our job.
I understand that, but it was like, you know, with all these other charges he's facing, it was like, hey, for this one in particular, you know, he's innocent, and we want to be able to speed this along to be able to find out that, you know, our client is innocent. But to ask you, though, next steps. So what, in this case, what possible indictments could we see also coming out of this whole Murdaugh saga?
Okay, so number one, I do want to address your comment, because the motion for speedy trial, which is a typical motion, defense attorneys have to just file typical motions. We have deadlines, so he is doing his job and he's doing it correctly.
It does give the illusion, though, like, okay, well, you know what, is he innocent?
Not to anyone in the bar.
Okay.
I'll tell you that. We're all like, hey, it's Spin City. That's what we're told. That's what we're taught to do. But next steps. Okay, so actually recently in June, SLED gave notification that they are trying to, or they were getting permission to exhume the body of Gloria Satterfield, the housekeeper. Okay, so maybe there's going to be an indictment for that murder. That could be coming up, and again, more charges. So I think today people think, oh, this is it. It's all over.
There have been a lot of shoes dropping on this one, and I don't think I've ever seen somebody with more charges and more legal trouble than Murdaugh right now.
It's sad. It's sad because, and again, this is civil, criminal, state, federal, and a total of, with both criminal and the lawsuits, like 90.
And it keeps unraveling.
Maybe 100 cases, yeah.
Right, to Brian's point, I mean, it keeps unraveling. I mean, just when we think it's over.
And again, I also want to point out what we're really waiting for right now is the evidence. What is the evidence that led to these indictments? Is there DNA? Is there ballistics? Is there crime scene? Witnesses? I want more, and hopefully we'll find out.
Yep.
All right, Seema Iyer, thank you very much. Arguments began today in the high-profile murder trial of disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh. He is accused of killing his son Paul and wife Maggie in June of 2021. Queen City News anchor Morgan Francis joins us now live in the studio. Morgan, there were a lot of explosive revelations in court today. Break down what happened.
Well, Brian, both the prosecution and the defense laid out a timeline of events, at some points being quite gruesome with the details. Murdaugh broke down in tears as his attorney described the murders of his son Paul and wife Maggie.
Alex, stand up. This is Alex Murdaugh. And Alex was the loving father of Paul and the loving husband of Maggie.
Defense attorney Dick Harpootlian, in opening statements today, painted Alex Murdaugh as a man not capable of murdering his son and wife in June of 2021, adding anything the prosecution presents in this case is not believable.
To find Alex Murdaugh guilty of murdering his son, you're going to have to accept that within an hour of having a extraordinarily bonding, you can see it in the Snapchat, that he executes him in a brutal fashion. Not believable.
The prosecution claims those Snapchat videos sent from Paul's phone just before he was murdered, along with cell phone location data, will prove the once prominent South Carolina attorney was at the scene of the crime when the murders happened.
The evidence is also going to show from these things that every one of us, most of us carry around in our pockets, that he was there.
The 54-year-old wept as both attorneys described the crimes in gruesome detail. His surviving son, Buster, was also in court as prosecutors hinted Maggie and Paul didn't fear their attacker.
The evidence is going to show that neither Paul nor Maggie had any defensive wounds. Neither one of them had any defensive wounds, as if they didn't see a threat coming from their attacker. And the evidence is also going to show that both Maggie and Paul were shot at extremely close range.
The 12 jurors were narrowed down from hundreds to decide his fate.
We don't know why. He doesn't know why. He's got theories of this and theories of that, but why?
Murdaugh is also facing dozens of charges for other financial crimes. The trial is set to resume tomorrow morning at 9:30. Brian. Cell phone evidence was the main focus today in the murder trial against disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh. Prosecutors claim Alex's voice was heard in a video taken just minutes before his wife and son were killed. Jurors watched the last video shot on Paul Murdaugh's phone at 8:44, just minutes before he and Maggie were shot and killed.
You hear three different voices in the video. You can tell because they're so different, you can tell that they're different voices.
Prosecutors believe the three voices in the video were Maggie,
hey, he's got a bird in his mouth,
Paul,
hey, Bubba,
and Alex Murdaugh.
come here, Bubba,
come here, Cash, come here, Bubba, okay.
Paul Murdaugh's friend, Rogan Gibson, identified all three.
Did you recognize the voices of your second family?
I did.
And what voices did you hear?
Paul's, Miss Maggie, Miss Alex.
And how sure are you now?
Positive.
100%?
That's correct.
The video was taken near the dog kennels where Maggie and Paul were found shot dead. The defense claims Alex was at home taking a nap. His phone, experts testified, has a gap in the call log, despite Maggie's phone showing she received multiple calls from Alex. Testimony has wrapped up for the day. The prosecution will resume tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Graphic testimony today in the double murder trial for disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh. Queen City news anchor Morgan Francis is in the studio tonight with details on the wounds that Maggie and Paul Murdaugh sustained the night of the murders.
Alex Murdaugh broke down crying as a witness testified about his wife and son's final moments.
I believe it would have hurt him. I believe he would have been in pain. And I believe he would have been somewhat affected. And the reason I believe that is because I've got the 90-degree blood drops moving really, really slow.
Crime scene expert Dr. Ken Kinsey testified both Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were likely in a great deal of pain, bringing accused killer Alex Murdaugh to tears in the courtroom on Thursday. He's on trial for their June 2021 murders on the family's sprawling South Carolina estate. Kinsey testified Maggie was shot 3 times before she was dealt 2 final blows, one to the back of her head as she was either kneeling or had a hand on the ground. Paul was shot once and walked toward his killer before he was shot a second time.
Once Paul received that second shot, he never walked again. He never made any movement. Any movement he made was involuntary, and it was due to gravity, pulling his body down to the ground. When you sustain an injury to your brain like that, that ceases all movement.
The defense team argued the probable height of the shooter didn't match up.
Why the second shot would be like this? I mean, we agree the normal height person would have to crouch to make that shot.
Please, Mr. Harpootlian, I can't tell you that part with my science. I can't. All I can look at is the angle,
Which is about like this.
The state also presented evidence from September of 2021 when Alex Murdaugh hired his alleged drug dealer to kill him so his surviving son Buster could collect millions in life insurance.
I was in a very bad place.
What does that mean?
I thought it would be better for me not to be here anymore.
What do you mean by not be here anymore?
I thought that it would make it easier on my family for me to be dead.
The prosecution is expected to rest its case this week. Murdaugh faces 30 years to life if convicted of the murders. I'm Morgan Francis, Queen City News.